I'm Marlo Fisken, and this is a 6-minute session. Today's sequence explores some basic weight transfers between a seated or facing forwards position and a prone or face down position. So to begin, we'll take the legs into a seated V. Your legs do not need to be super wide at all. What matters is the positioning of your pelvis. So you can take a moment to explore taking the front of your hips towards your thighs, and then the opposite, which is having lots of space between the front of the pelvis and the thighs. We're looking for a position where it feels like your pelvis is stacked up and you're right on top of your sits bones. Your knees might bend, they may rotate and bend, and that's okay. We have a lot of room for variation. We want to find as much of this as possible. You'll take your weight onto the outside of one hip, and as I do that, I'm internally rotating the other thigh. So as I weight transfer across the sits bone, my weight goes to the outer hip, and now I find myself completely on the outside. Back leg internally rotated and down. That sends the signal to your body to reach behind you, pretty far behind you, both hands, in a nice wide chest frame. So my hands are wider than my shoulders here. I'm going to keep both feet in contact with the floor, which means my front leg will bend, and that brings me to a face down position. So just reversing that. From seated, I shift the weight to the outer hip. I'm reaching to the back, and you can see that there's this twist or spiral starting to happen. My front leg bends, and I find my way onto my belly. The hands are just gliding across the floor here. So you see this kind of lizard-like side bend happens. And that's what takes me to the other side so that I can bend my bottom knee forwards, and this will bring me to the V. So again, face down, the legs are in a V or the bottom of an X. I side bend, rock onto the outer hip, the bottom knee bends, and that lets me find the V. Rather than picking the head up and pushing into the floor, you're going to imagine that someone's pulling on your toes while you keep your ear down as though you wanted to listen to the floor. So just that transition again. From face down, I side bend, I bend the bottom knee, I switch the legs, and I reach the toes until you find your way up to sit. The stretch here is pretty clear, and you let that take you over to the other side. So I'm on the outer hip, I twist, bending the front knee so that the legs can make a V. I keep looking. I bend the bottom knee, and I make my V so that I can come up to sit, letting the leg pull me up. You may have noticed that I'm going in the same direction again and again and again. So this is what I call an infinite loop, repeating in the same direction. Let's take it to the other side. From seated, the arms begin to reach, and that takes you onto the outer hip. Start to look where you're going, which is around the bed. I find my belly. I want to side bend a little more. And then my bottom knee moves forwards as my top leg moves back. Heavy head. My arms don't even have to do very much. If I really imagine that leg reaching, that takes me to the other hip. I find the floor. I swing the leg. The leg tells me it's time to side bend. The legs change. And you come up to sit. So that's our basic pattern. As you'll see when I demonstrate it in a moment, there's a lot of room to play within that. The positions themselves might change. The face down position might look more like a cobra or even a plank, a push-up. And the seated position, that may change as well. So far, we've kept our feet in contact with the floor. You might have moments where you intentionally take your foot off of the floor, or I add a little extra momentum, or I slow down. So that sounds like a lot, but there's a lot of ways that you can play with the basic pattern. But it starts with just that, the basic pattern. I'm Marlo Fisken, and this was a 6-minute session.